Hey guys, how's it
Hey,
going today?
good. How are you?
Good, good. Leith, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good today. Yeah. I can tell it's a Thursday, but yeah, it's good. I'm looking forward to the weekend.
Yeah, and I can tell that the 2 weeks off for holiday break are around the corner.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, I know I feel like we can sense that in a normal school year, but this year, like even more so, it's like, all right, people are looking forward to that break.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Because-
I think my eyes, I call it Zoom fatigue, but by the end of a week or right before a break, you just notice that you really need a break for yourself.
Hmm.
I know,
Absolutely.
I totally, I think I don't know that our brains were meant to be on computers and on screens and sitting for this long. So it's definitely a new fatigue. But but that's what we're talking about today is how to make the most out of that 2 week break coming up.
Hmm.
Because I think as you know, we were talking about earlier and talked with other parents that, this 2 week break is I think a lot of people are looking forward to it, but it's really important to be intentional with our time and know that like we still have some challenges coming up. So how do we make the most out of this 2 weeks? So, so that we're actually rested and we're rejuvenated and we can like come back to school with like the I'm gonna thrive attitude versus like I'm just gonna like get through it.
Yeah, I think what I noticed for myself with the last break that we had is I literally unplugged from my laptop. And it was a real challenge because, sometimes when staff members or parents have time to email, you could be receiving those things during your break because there's not a lot of downtime in the regular part of the school year to actually get those sent. But I really, my goal for myself was to find a way of embracing self-care. And one of the ways I showed that was I did not log into my computer, not one time. I did play with my phone a little bit. And for students, that might be really challenging because of how they stay connected to their peers is often through their computers or their video game systems or their phones.
Hmm. Well, I would think if they have other devices besides their school Chromebooks, my suggestion for the students and for parents to help facilitate this is to take those Chromebooks and like literally close it and say we're going to put it here for the next 2 weeks and it's out of the way, and just out of sight out of mind for a couple of weeks so that it's an actual physical break from doing school. So I think
Yeah.
that's what's really essential here is to say we are going to take a break from this.
Yeah, I will hope and cross my fingers that students do not have any projects they have to work on during the 2 weeks. But if they have, maybe you can encourage the parents can encourage the kids to get them done, not rush through, but get it done so they can really take that break and maybe open the Chromebook on a couple days before they go back to school just to see if there's anything they don't want to miss.
Right.
Yeah.
So maybe like the Saturday before we return or something, open it back up.
Mhm.
I don't anticipate many teachers will be giving work over the break. I think teachers also recognize the need for this because just like students, I think staff needs it as well.
Yeah.
So I'm with you. I'm hoping
Yeah.
that everybody will get a much deserved rest.
I know I've talked to a few kids that might be trying to like get caught up with stuff or like, kind of like get back to a level playing field. And I think it is a good time for that, but I think there needs to be, I think for parents, they need to work with the kids to have a good balance in there, so that kids are accountable, maybe if they're going to get some work done, but that they're balancing that with being able to do things outside, being able to unplug when they need to. I think the unplugging thing is huge. And I think for parents, it also helps to unplug the things that like we don't always think about, the watch, Alexa, you know, all of those little tiny things that are around that still divert your attention. I can't tell you how many meetings I've been in and like someone's watch goes off. And in my head, I'm like, what is this? Like, get smart? Like, no, turn off your watch. Like, come on.
This is Star Trek 2020.
I know. I
Yeah,
know.
It really does speak to self-care. And, I know that just looking at us three, that how different we have so many similarities with how we embrace self-care, but can also look different for each person, each student,
Yeah.
each parent, and
Yeah.
just finding each person's own zen, and
Yeah.
really taking the time throughout our break to embrace whatever that might look like for each person.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think something I heard a while ago about trying to detach from social media and technology is the importance of replacing that behavior, um, and really looking at it through the lens of this is sort of a habitual thing that I do. And I think for kids and parents, just just saying that we're going to unplug is good, but there's got to be those follow-up actions as far as like, okay, well, if you're used to spending 3 or 4 hours a day on on social media, on whatever it is, it's got to be replaced with something. And so coming up with a plan ahead of time, like as to like what you're going to do in those, or what you're going to do in those moments when you're like awkwardly standing in line at Trader Joe's and everyone else is on their phone and you're not, you know, what can you
That's when
do?
you reach for the goodies at the register and
Yeah.
start
Yeah.
with the good stuff, right?
Yeah.
My go-to, and it's going to sound really strange, but whatever, like I said, we all have our own practices. I love unscrambling words and to make different words out of the letters without repeating the letters twice. So I will find, like, I would take two words Trader Joe's and make up different words using those letters as a way of passing time, and I can get my family involved in that. For me, it's a matter of, I already have like 3 books on my nightstand just waiting to pick it up and to start reading. Often I would find a project around the house, or maybe pulling weeds, or any way I can get outside to go on family walks, walking my dog. But in line at the store, I'm a word unscrambler. So if I ever look deep in thought, if you catch me out there, that's what I'm probably doing.
Oh, that's
How
fun.
awesome. I
Yeah.
have never done that. That's
Yeah, you should
great.
see the games I make up if I travel. Well, back before COVID, when I would travel on some long flights, I've got
Yeah,
these little dots going on, and I do tic-tac-toe, and I unscramble words, and that's how we pass a lot of our flying time.
that's great.
Fun fact about Miss Krista.
That's awesome. That's very cool.
Yeah, I'm like you. I've got like 3 or 4 books just waiting for me to dive in and read, and I can't wait to do that. Um, and put down the screens and just do that. I've actually started making a habit of that, like before I go to sleep now.
Mhm.
Everything gets put away and I pull an actual book out and read from a
Yeah.
book because it puts my mind into a different mode before I go to sleep. It's kind of nice,
Yeah.
to put the day away and not have to think about the day.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a challenge. I know one thing that we've been talking so much this week about to students and teachers is, really taking the time to acknowledge, we do have some challenges. We've got some big challenges right now. So talking about it, getting those thoughts out there, harder to have feelings that are associated with all the challenges, but how important it is to not forget everything that's going right and going well for our lives, because those things sometimes we have to work harder at remembering, or to talk about and to reflect on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there is a lot to reflect on in that way, right? Just the fact that we can still make these connections and have these conversations. Just having good friends, right? And to be able to bounce things off of and just laugh with, and learn new things about. After all, I never knew that about you. We've known each other forever. So just all of those things are, finding time over the break to, reconnect with another family member or start a diary. I think that would be really, that might be one of those things you start with the new year, is maybe sit down and start doing journal entries or something, or
Yeah.
making a promise to yourself, I'm going to take a walk every day, even if it's just 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Just something to, break up what we have been doing and start putting ourselves back on a path towards, like you said, focusing more on what is going well as opposed to what is a challenge right now, which
Yeah.
could feel overwhelming.
Yeah. And I think even just like the mindset going into the break of, I think it's really natural and easy for us to look at this holiday season and kind of look at it like, well, I should be doing this and I should be spending it with my family, and last year we did this and we don't get to do these traditions. And I think it's important to kind of take the approach of like, yes, there are things that we could and maybe should be doing, but there, like you're saying, there also are a lot of positive things that are going on right now. And it's not a one or the other, it's a and. It's, you know, there are a lot of positive things and there are some things that are not great. But choosing to focus on those positive things are really what like makes us feel joyful and connected. And you know, I heard a quote, how was it yesterday? I don't know, the other day. But it was comparison is the thief of joy. I'm like, oh, totally true. You know, I think on so many levels, whether it's social media or comparing these holidays to last year, you know, these holidays are just vastly different than last year. And they're going to be totally different than next year. And so it's important to embrace that, like, this is where we're at right now. Let's make the most of it.
Yeah, it'll be very refreshing to not have to tell family members when you're doing a Zoom to keep it quiet in the other room. And that's just one of the things I'm looking so forward to for a 2 week period, to not have to say those words.
Yes.
or, or the dogs. Usually my dogs make an appearance in our Zooms. So,
yeah.
You know, it is. It'll be refreshing to not have to do that. But that comparison thing. But what I'm also thinking about is this year is so different.
Yeah.
Any of us living through this right now, we are never going to forget this year or 2 years, right? This is going to be a specific period in our lives that we're going to look back to, and we're going to remember, oh, do you remember Christmas that year when we did this and this and this, or we weren't able to do that, but so we tried this instead, and now that's our new family tradition, or whatever it might be. So this is a really unique period of time.
Yeah.
And I think we're all going to be able to look back on this and say, wow, I went through that, and have our own stories to tell on the other side of it all.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. You know, Buddy and I we were writing this weekend and we were talking about that exact thing, how it normally we wouldn't have been able to spend as much time together and ride together and go do all the stuff that we did because we would have been racing and had team plans and stuff like that. And so, you know, in some ways, not having race plans and stuff like that allowed us the freedom to be able to just go and ride our bikes and enjoy it and explore. And, you know, and then now we have all of these experiences that we had together that we wouldn't normally have had. And that's a really cool thing to look back and be like, oh, that's so cool that like we connected in this way, despite all of this gnarly stuff that's going on in the world.
Mm-hmm. I'm just thinking about something as simple as being able to sit in a room. I know, like when I'm on campus and I'm able to sit in a room with like another staff member and just have a conversation, even though it's across the room, we might be masked and everything else. Yeah. Just being in the physical presence of somebody else like that is there's this underlying, oh yes, this feels so right in that moment, right? It's like, oh, human connection. And just not recognizing at this point that previously we didn't think so much about it, and now we're very aware of the actual need to have that human to human connection. Yeah. So whatever it might look like, I think that's something that's changed for a lot of us, is now we recognize that need.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I look forward to the day that I can actually see a friend, and you know, I'm a big hugger. You both know that, but you know, having to hold that back and how much energy it takes to do that. Just the simplest little things, but you know what, when we talk about the human connection, it's all those little things that just make such a huge difference, and we can still do those things with the people in our bubble and our family that we're with. I found a great quote that I read for every single circle this week. It just put things into such perspective. When life gives you 100 reasons to break down and cry, show life that you have 1,000 reasons to smile and laugh. And isn't that the truth? You know, we have the challenge. I mean, just even this Zoom with my family literally making noise purposefully, knowing that I'm taping and me running around trying to find a different space, just is a super challenge. But how lucky I am to have them in my life, you know, to have them in my bubble. They will get the word from me after I'm done, though, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I agree. We do have a lot to have in that balance.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate that quote. And I think it's, for people on like the full range of the spectrum of dealing with job loss, dealing with sickness and folks passing away and all sorts of stuff. There's a lot of gnarly stuff going on. And, I don't want it to sound like we're not acknowledging the seriousness of everything that's going on, because there are some serious things. But I think even in the midst of some of those serious things that are going on, it's so important to, like you said, figure out all of those things that make you smile.
There's so many, it sounds so cliche-ish, but that we really have to acknowledge the challenges that we face. Yeah. And there's so many, like you said, after every storm, there's the promise of a rainbow though. And there's always calmness after a tornado. I mean, if you think about every single, hard thing we have, there's always something positive that comes out of this. And I don't know what this one is going to be, but maybe it's like Lee said at the beginning, finding a way to connect with each other despite COVID. These kids are getting a good education with so many staff members that care for them, despite the fact that we can't be in a room together.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, on that note, I hope you guys have an amazing 2 weeks off. And well, we have one more week to do this, don't we?
We do.
We do.
I'm jumping ahead, I think.
That's okay. We might be there with you, Krista. It's just fine.
I know. But it's good to talk about this early. We got to, you got to, especially if it's planning, like you got to talk about it early and plan. So
right.
True.
Awesome.
Good point.
All right, guys.
All right.
I'll see you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.